Now, for any of the people that did not see the restoration of this whole bike when we were doing flip videos, the whole thing was on flip video. I have no way of recovering it from flip anymore. There may be a way somebody can do it, I don't know. But anyway, we took our donor bike, took all the parts off, made a replica of the West Cooley, a very similar but not an exact copy. It's a replica bike. Did the gold wheels. Did a lot of other parts. It's historically registered now forever. It'll never need to be re-registered. I've owned it since it was new, so it's kind of a special, well, every bike in my collection is special. And the biggest job on this, I still have one instrument. I still have to fix the gas gauge, but everything else is really working. The temperature gauge, everything else, all the lights, all the blinkers, everything. That the whole thing just played out really nice. And in the very end, the one thing that I didn't think was going to be a problem, because it worked well on the original bike, was the fuel gauge. And it turns out, and I'm almost sure this is what it's going to be, that the feed wire is not, the orange feed wire is the problem. So I'm not going to even try to pull it apart until I have an excuse to pull the rest of it out, because the tank has to come off and everything. So I've been trying to put that off. Anyway, but we had our great, what we usually have on a weekend, a little get-together up on Bear Mountain with I call it the usual suspects. And a little chance to show off the bike and have everybody say what a pig it is and how I should have spent more money on it and whatever. Jealousy is a terrible thing. But we really did have, and we took advantage of, a really nice day. Now, I don't know where all these really nice days have been coming from, but I hope they stay. The problem is, when I have all these nice days, I don't get much done around the shop. Here's Pokey here looking at his bike. He had loaned me a wrench, and he promised to find me a GS engine. 82 or 83 GS 1100 for my donor bike, which needs a crank, but I'll take a whole engine. And then right in the middle of this, and I remember when our friend Brian worked at, whether it's Nissan or Datsun, he showed us one of these cars. This is a real hot rod car here. These things are real powerful. And this is the first one I've seen on the road, but this guy did his usual thing of, you know, they open the hood and they all look at the engine and whatever. There was an R1 here and it's a blue R1 if you look in the back. And he's got the wheels fluorescent red, which, again, everything with bikes is in the eye of the beholder. And you never can tell when you're gonna. I went up to Rockwell, had a bagel up there, hung out with some of the guys, and there's a couple of the Harley guys there. They were very nice. We were chatting about old bikes. These guys said they loved old GSs too, which I guess, like RDs, there's a lot of people that have them, had them, whatever. But this bike now, with the gold Renthal bars and with the new paintwork, it's going to be a blast. It's going to absolutely be a blast to ride all summer, I'm sure, and beyond. But unfortunately, whenever we get back from a ride, there's work to be done. And the thing with when you own 7 bikes and you want to keep them all in tip-top shape, that's 7 oil changes, 7 oil filters, 14 tires to check the air. There's a lot of 7 chains to adjust. It's a lot of work. But I wanted to get started on this part, sanded with 2000 grit, get ready to buff it out. We've gone through this system so many times now that we're very comfortable with the thing with the urethane. 2000 grit. Larry was going to buy some 2500 to see if it was any better, but the 2000 is fine for the parts that I've been doing. I want to clear out all the little pock marks and anything, the dust that's in there. Using a 4CR 8021, you can go right through it. In a matter of a half an hour or so, it's buffed up like a mirror, and it really has a nice glow. And no matter what you do, a part that is not buffed has a different look, to me anyway. I'm very critical of that. And now I know I have this wrong plate that I rode all last year with the wrong plate on a bike, and I never even checked it, so I'm not sure. But I'm going to try to get away with it again this year and play dumb if I get pulled over, because I really do want to ride this bike this upcoming weekend. And what we try to do is when I do my two-stroke, we try to get Luciano, and if Dave is going to join us with his RD, we try to get 2 or 3 or 4 of the RDs together and then smoke up. We call it smoke up the mountain. And I thought before I put the taillight on permanently, what I do is position it. I wanted to find, and this was all eye of the beholder stuff. So I started out thinking that's about where I would want to have it. Bolt that up. In other words, I wanted to be able to, of course, at some point in time, if I ever have to take the seat apart, I want to be able to take it apart. If I have to recover it, or if I want to change it in some way, I wanted to look at it from several different angles. Most of all, I wanted to look at it on the bike. Look at it from the back, look at it from the front, from both sides, of course. And the thing I really wanted to have was that stripe, when you looked at it from every angle, it would just go right down the bike. I didn't want it to be higher or lower, even though the factory bikes don't really line up anyway. I just wanted mine to be a little more in what I thought was right. So now I can position that taillight, make sure everything's not crooked or not offset in some way. And this was something now I remember, see, because Luciano had told me to white wire his ground. When I went to wire this up, this became a real pain in the neck. Now what I learned from this whole process was, and it's what happened when we put this bike together, we put a really inexpensive battery in it. And we rode all last year with a very, I think it was $15. It's a battery from a burglar alarm. And it lasted a year, but right now, while I was dinking around with the electrics and putting connectors on and checking headlights, I noticed that the battery wasn't really holding a charge the way I wanted it to. So luckily Luciano had a new RD battery for me. I just had to go pick it up. But in the meantime, while I'm going to pick up the battery, here's the deal. I thought I'd get a coat of black inside, so when you look at it from this angle, it would be black, and of course it's going to have mud on it as soon as we ride the bike, or grease or whatever. And I thought, just to satisfy myself, now that I've gone through all this work to make sure this looked like what my vision was from every possible angle, now because I had a picture in my mind, see, if this seat got much higher or much longer, it would have, in my estimation, made the tank look too small. So getting that proportion right was one of the things I really wanted to spend some time on. I thought about it, I did a lot of, I don't know, calculations in my brain or whatever. But now that it's done, and my plan is that this fall, Malcolm has donated a spare pair of stock mufflers, and I want to make a pair of carbon fiber mufflers, not expansion chambers, mufflers, using them for parts and for a plug and for measurements. I don't want to cut these up, that's for sure. In the way John Pothier's lettering came out on this, the decals, but then everything we get from John is just perfect. And there was one little thing left to do that I thought was going to take 10 minutes. It wound up taking about 3 hours. And when I looked at this from some angles, and I'll try to show this, I don't know if I even took a picture of it, but there were some angles where the seat didn't look exactly straight. And so I wound up, because I did this photo shoot, and I wound up getting out my yardstick and doing some point-to-point measurements, I realized when I took the seat apart, I had some washers shimming it. And I had left the washers out. When I put the washers back, it lined up what I thought was pretty good. These are some of the parts. Now the next step on this, I have the EBC brake pads. These are some real cheesy brake pads that we had put in here just so we could ride the bike. And I don't remember if they're not EBCs though, and I got good EBC brand new ones. That's the next step when we work on this. But as I look back now, and this is, I guess, the essence of any job like this. About a month ago, I had a vision of what I wanted this part to look like. I wanted it to be that nobody would have this part. You couldn't just call up and buy one off of some dealer. I wanted it to be unique, yet I wanted it to be in keeping with the rest of the bike and this era of bike. And so we've made some concessions to the yellow stripe on the wheel is making it a little more modern than normal. And who knows? I don't know how it's going to look when we do the carbon fiber mufflers, but again, that'll be a future project this fall, and I don't know what our next project will be. We still have a list of about 7 little things to do, and if any of them seem interesting, we'll do the same thing, is make them available on YouTube. So I hope you enjoyed this project.